Here we are today on day 6 of the 30-day Radville BMX 30 Bike BMX Challenge. Today's lineup includes the infamous 1987 Redline RL-20II. Here we have a Redline RL-20II in purple, and let's go through this fine piece of BMX history here. Let's talk about what's right, what's wrong, and what's totally awesome about this bike. Okay, so first off, out of the chute, frame and fork in a Radberry, aka lavender or purple. Radberry was Redline's term for that color. This is obviously not original, if you can see from the video. Looking at it, you know, it's okay, but you could actually tell some of the points, how the chrome tips and the finishes are, and you know, it's not a bad paint job. You can just tell it's obviously not original, right? We've spoken a lot about what's original and what's not, so just being upfront and honest with what I know and what I can confirm and what I'm unsure of. Here, I'm sure this is painted. Probably paint job was done years back, right? You know, maybe you know, my guess, if I had to guess, you know, it's probably about 10-year-old, maybe a little bit longer than that, but it's absolutely beautiful. The chrome tips, part of why I know that it's not correct is you could actually zoom in right there, down just behind the chain ring on the rear bottom chain stays, and the paint just comes back too far, right? So the chrome tip should actually come off of the bottom bracket barrel. So right there is a dead giveaway on that particular bike. So, but love it nonetheless. It's absolutely beautiful. Like I mentioned, 87. We have the Radberry Peregrine Master Mags. This variation in coaster brake. That's why you're not seeing any handbrakes on this. Again, great rider, great cruiser. Love the coaster brake. That's just my personal style. I know a lot of people may not, right? But definitely love the coaster brake, right? It's just for what it stands for, right? It's just great for coasting around, you know. So like that, like the stopping power and the ability to cruise around. Just got to remember when you switch between coaster and freewheel, you know, that you don't jam on the brake, thinking you're on a freewheel and pedaling backwards. So always keep that in mind. But other than that, small detail, I enjoy the coaster personally. So that's just a personal preference. Okay, running through the midsection here, we have Redline 3-piece cranks. Great touch, obviously, on a Redline. These are not original. These are repop. These are, you know, 2000 era, you know, like much more recent, you know, whichever batch they made them in. The crank arms are just a little thicker. The bolts and the finishes. So we could go through that in a later series, how to identify a Redline crank set from an original, from a repop, from a mid-school. But for now, you know, these are repop. Pedals on here, I believe they're Suntour KKT, something, you know, fairly decent, right? Kind of appropriate for the bike and the era. The age of them, I'm not totally sure, but you know, they definitely fit right and you know, fairly appropriate enough. Chainring is the Redline Star. I believe that to be actually correct for the era and the right font on the chainring. We could zoom in a little bit and get a close-up of that font and lettering. You can see that's important. We'll get some better pictures of that posted for you. Okay, then coming up top, we got the Peregrine seat clamp. We have the seat post straight on this model. You definitely don't want to rock the laid back on this model because you could damage your seat post mast, and a lot of seat post masts have been damaged as a result of that minor flaw in the build. Personally, you just don't need it on this bike with the geometry. That's what's so awesome about this bike, is its geometry. So it's a great rider, got a lot of room, it's very comfortable, and just meant as a great cruising bike, right? So just can't speak highly enough about that. In fact, you know, that's what drew me to this bike, was that reason. Had a lot of friends were, you know, enjoying this and telling me about it. Never had personally owned a Redline RL-20II until just probably a few years ago, and the first one I had, fell in love with, and wanted to get another model, another year. Had an opportunity to get this Radberry. So we'll talk about the other one in a later series, but today it's all about the 1987, right? So the seat is somewhat appropriate. Actually, you can get quite a bit into the seat on the Redline. I stuck with a kind of a semi-correct enough seat on this. I know some of the purists on the RL-20II. There you go. So it's someone having a nice afternoon ride on a much louder bike than the RL-20II. But anyway, so the seat is appropriate. A lot of purists, would not find it to be correct. I'll detail a little bit more in the series about the seats that are appropriate for this, I believe, in a lineup, but that is not what this is. But it's about as close as I was going to go for on this one. Like I said, this bike is for riding and cruising, right? Not necessarily into showcase beauty queen and carpet queens here on this series for the 30 bike challenge. This is all about bikes that we can enjoy and pay respect and talk about the good, the bad, the ugly on them, right? Okay, if we move up front here on our stem, we obviously got a Redline stem based on the decal, and that is, I believe, as original as they can get. Pretty good one. 4-bolt on that, and that is the Redline forklifter stem, right? Zooming back out, we got our headset on there, nothing too famous on that, and the forklifter bars. Note on these bars how they have the dual bend above the crossbar or within the crossbar, and that indicates that they're a freestyle edition. So if you actually had a straight crossbar, that would be more of a racing, and that's for your number plate. Here on the free store, they gave you a little extra clearance with that little feature, and that's real nice. If we move down on the fork, you can actually see the pencil pegs, similar to the Kuwahara that we saw in an earlier session on the Radville BMX challenge, but I don't believe that they're threaded the same. These took me quite a bit of trial and error to find a pair that fit these forks, and could be some debate on whether these are the right forks. I've heard so many different stories on where the forks and the pegs should be lined up. On this one, they're down low, and those pegs, fit. So, going to go with that. Whether they're absolutely correct for that model and that era, I'm not exactly sure. I do believe they should be chrome, and I do believe the decal is in the right direction on that. But beyond that, super functional and work great. Again, look at the Peregrine Master up front, and note the tires here. These are actually a special tire. These are actually Haro tires, and they're treaded for street. You got the gum walls. I believe these are OG, perhaps from the 80s, 87. These were a very popular tire, so if these are actually 87, that's really cool. You can see up front where the decal is, right there. Trying to capture that for you. And you can see that Haro decal. Got quite a bit of discoloration on the front tire. The back is in good shape, but that's what happens with these old school tires. So it's really kind of a catch-22, right? It's great to have these old school tires. It can also be a little bit tricky riding around on 35, 40-year-old rubber, but I love them. If I get the chance, these ones I definitely rode on and ride, right? Because that's what they're meant for on this bike. So it's just a great color match, great addition to this bike. I really think it made its point. So I like those. Shame about the discoloration, but that's how that works, right? So just be aware of that. And then the grips, AME grips on these, I could probably go with some Oakleys. Actually, the 2010 version of Oakleys have a bit of a lavender, but to me, it's just too many different purples going on. Trying to avoid the Barney bikes. I think the white is a nice touch, and those are a nice older set of Oakleys and kind of fit the with the seat. So there you have it. So today's edition of the Radville BMX 30-day BMX Bicycle Challenge, day number 6, the Redline RL-20II Pro Styler. Love this bike. Hope you enjoy it too. Thanks again for watching. Take care. Later.